Hello students, welcome to this new session of Python. Last time we had studied file handling in Python. That is, we had studied how we can write data to a text file or read data from a text file. With that we had completed the first unit of our syllabus programming in Python. The first unit was Introduction to Python. This session onwards, we are going to start with Unit 2. That is, we are going to start with OOP using Python. Now, what is OOP? Most of you have already studied at least two object-oriented programming languages, C++ and Java, and then we are here to study Python. Let me just brief you a little bit about it. Basically, programming languages have two approaches, procedure oriented or object oriented. Right now, the object oriented approach is used more often because of its characteristics. We'll discuss some of them like inheritance, polymorphism, uh, and so on. Now, just let us take an overview of some terms as far as OOP is concerned, and then we start with Python. Most of you should be familiar with some of the terms like class, attribute, method, and object. Let us try to revise these terms and then we try to start with the actual Python part. First, let us start with object. Object is something real world entity. Say for example, student is an object, car is an object, college. All this are real world objects. Now, how they are related to object oriented programming? Just let us go back little bit to check out few things that you have already studied. Say for example, we consider student. Then student will have some characteristic. Let me write down over here student, like roll number, name, address, and so on. This will continue. Student will appear for exam. Student can score marks. So basically what it refers to, these are something like attributes of student. Same way, we have methods associated with it. Method basically means some actions. Say for example, the normal methods that theoretically you might have studied is get data or print data. But basically it indicates something happening. Now, what is a class and why a class is required? Class is something like a blueprint that consists or that contains both the things attributes and methods. Say for example, we are not writing the syntax of the class, but a general structure of a class. We have class name. If I have to give a general structure of the class, not based on some programming language, but in general, within the class, you define attributes, also referred to as data members, or variables. Now, because in object oriented programming most of the times you do not access the attributes data members directly. So what we have is member functions, or they are also referred to as methods, which work on the attributes. Now this is just a very basic raw structure of a class. A class, in other words, is also like a user defined data type. And then you create objects of type class. That is, there can be multiple students. So you create multiple objects, and through it you work on the data members as well as the member functions. So once again we just try to check the four terms and get little bit of clarity about the four terms. Class, attribute, method and object. Object is a real world entity. Class is like a user defined data type, and based on the class you can create real world objects. Class is a container for attributes and methods. So I hope little bit of revision is fine. Now let's move on and let's try to get started with creating some programs in Python. So let us just try to start with some basic programs. The way in which we write programs using the concepts of object oriented programming in Python and other languages are little bit different. So let us try to create the first program in Python. We'll give file, save as, and let us try to give some name to the file. Let me just increase the font size little bit so that it helps you. Okay. Always a good practice, like I have been following. You should always write, the first line should be a descriptive line describing what the program is for. Program to demonstrate class without attributes or methods. This is little bit of surprising for all of you, since you are coming from a background where you have already learned C++ as well as Java. Yes, uh, it is possible to create an empty class in the sense without any attributes or methods. Yes, it may not have any meaning, but it's just an possibility that exists. So let's get started. The first program, we'll be using the class student in our study. So let us create the class student. Generally in Python we don't use the curly brackets, we use the colon. So we create a class, and because we don't want to use any attributes or any methods, that is, we don't want to use data members or member function, we just write pass, nothing else. This actually indicates an empty block. Okay, like we just saw before a while, a class basically should actually consist of at least two things: attributes and methods. Otherwise, yes, technically we can create a class, but it is not going to serve any purpose. So we are just observing that technically, uh, yes, we can create a class. Now, the way of creating objects in Python is little bit different compared to C++ or Java. So what we do is, say for example, S is the object, then S is equal to student, just empty brackets. So with this, we are initializing or creating S as an object of class student, and then we write print S. So this is all. Let us try to check how it works. We want to save it first, and as you can observe what it does, the output main student object at this particular thing. So basically it is an instance of the class student. It shows the address of the student object. So basically what we are trying to understand is, in Python, yes, it may not serve any purpose, but you can always create an empty class, that is a class without any attributes or methods. So now let's try to move on. We modify this. We try to include some method. We don't include attributes at present, without attributes, but with methods. So now we do not have this pass keyword. Remember that method is nothing but a function. So there are two terms that are alternatively used, member functions or methods. But the syntax of creating the method is the same as that of creating a function. And we have already seen how to create a function in Python. We use the def keyword. Uh, say we create a simple function, say hello. Now, one new thing as far as Python is concerned, always when we have a method or member function without argument, one argument that we need to always use is self, because when the object is created, it points to itself. As we go ahead, we'll try to see how and what, how self is going to be useful and what is the significance of self. So we are not uh, going, because we have not taken any data members, we are just going to print some message. Print hello, how are you, nothing more than that. So we are just printing a message. Now, yes, we are creating an object of class student, but instead of printing s, now we are going to do something different. What we are going to do, s dot say hello. That means basically what we are doing, through the object we are making a call to the member function that was created or to the method that was created within the class student. So now slowly you should get an idea about the class that we are creating. It's like a user defined data type. This is the method that we are using. we are initializing a variable to the class student, and S becomes a user defined data type. Yes, in OOP terms it is an object, and through the object we are accessing the member functions or methods. So again, let us try to run the program. So it prints, hello, how are you? Well, up till now so good, and the things are working nicely. Now you should remember constructors uh, that we have studied. uh, Maybe you have studied in C++ or Java. So basically it is to initialize the object with some values if at all you want. So there is something like constructor in Python as well. So let us try to check it out how it works, and that can be done through an init method. With, remember, this init method is double underscore init and double underscore. It is two underscores, not a single underscore. There is special significance of double underscore being used before the function name or single underscore being used before the function name. Again, I will come to it in the next few sessions, but as of now, we just try to understand init method is something like a constructor. So let us try to define the init method. Double underscore init double underscore, and I will say self comma, say for example now I take some variable which is something like an object variable. In the next few sessions we'll also try to study what is the difference between a class variable and an object variable. But as of now we just create something like this, and what we do is self dot name equals name. Now we will see what or how is the importance of self. Say for example I am creating s is equal to student, but now I will have to pass some parameter, say for example Sachin. So when we give s is equal to Sachin, that means within the object s you are assigning the name as Sachin. Same way, what I can do is I can take one more object, say for example S1 equals student Rahul, and yes, I can print the name separately. Now we are going to make some change in the say hello method as well. What we are going to do is we are going to uh, when I am saying hello, hello, how are you? I want to print the name as well. So here I will refer to self dot name. That means the name that is pointing for this particular object. Now, apart from accessing this object variable through the member function or through the method, what we can do is after initializing the object, I can also print something like this. Okay, what we do is we'll go to this in the next step. Just let us try to execute this first s1 dot say hello, and then we'll make some changes. So let us try to run the program. We save it. Hello, how are you, Sachin? Hello, how are you, Rahul? Now, instead of this, what I want to do is say I want to print directly the value that is stored in S1. Say I am giving name stored in S1 object. Let us try to check what happens. Now I am giving over here S1 dot name. So does it give some output? Let us just try to check. Through this object I am trying to access the variable. So there are two ways in which you can access the name. As you can observe, name stored in S1 object, and we are able to get Rahul. So now probably you should be able to understand what this self indicates specifically in Python. When we do S1 is equal to student Rahul, that means Rahul is stored in self.name. It's an object variable. So to with object S1, name will have the value Rahul. With object S, the variable name will have the value Sachin. And apart from accessing the name through the member function, I can also access the name directly from outside the class. Basically, if I say this is the class definition, after this part, the class definition is over. We are taking objects, and through the object, we can access the object variables. So, I hope you have understood few things. Just before we end, one more thing. Init is like a constructor. That means we are initializing the object S or the object S1 with some name. Yes, we can take multiple attributes, multiple variables over here, which can be considered as object variables. So, we have learned a few things as far as this session is concerned. We took an overview of what is class, what is object, what is method, and what are data members. Though right now we have not studied any data members. Generally, this is the basic structure of a class. We created three short programs. First, we just created a class with an empty block. That means without making use of any data members or member functions, what it was returning was the instance of the class. Then we took one simple sorry, we took one simple method. Let us go back to this. We studied one simple method, say hello, and towards the end in the third program we also included the init method, which works like a constructor. So that's all. In the next session we'll try to study few more things, basically about what is an object variable and what is a class variable and what is the difference between the two. And we'll also try to study what is the significance of single underscore, double underscore, and so on. So thank you. That's all for this particular session.